All right, time for another DraftPhysics.com, debatephysics.com also, but the debate is completely eliminated, confined, reduced, substantially degraded by the obnoxious arrogance, of the participants. There's just people who can't participate in any kind of reasonable, thoughtful, reasonably considerate and polite manner, and instead will attack your family and do all kinds of stuff to stop you from saying anything like I disagree. This is something you're not allowed to say, is I disagree and here are the reasons and I'll detail them. Okay, and I won't call your mother fat. I won't do anything nasty. I'll just detail a scientific argument and then you can counter my argument with some sort of reasonable rhetoric. But instead, they just can't handle it. All right. So this is just really unfortunate. I mean, the whole thing is just very tragically sad. Okay, so I made what is a very polite video. Okay, I'm gonna highlight it on my kind of Hall of Shame web page, if that's what it takes. Because all I did was point out some reasonable arguments about the real history of Newton and what Newton actually said, and just made the simple point that you don't think you should misparaphrase somebody you're saying was a great scientist. I mean, that's sort of a inconsistency. You can't say you admire his science and then, poop on it. And essentially, that's what physics has done. They talk about Newton's laws, and they don't pay any attention to what Newton said about those laws. So it's just almost ridiculous. But anyway, they can't have that conversation about the actual history, what they actually believe, that they really should be calling themselves Leibnizians, because it's Leibnizians' universal view that they are accepting, and it's Newton's universal view that they're rejecting. And they just won't be honest. And that's really, I mean, frankly, there's no other word for it except disgraceful. It's disgraceful scientific behavior to slander, the scientists before you. Okay, you're not standing on the shoulders of greatness, you're stomping on the bones of greatness. It's so ironically rude, frankly. So anyway, I made a very polite video, very nice, friendly. Let's have a chat about physics, and let's keep it friendly, chatty. And that's what I did. And so I made my points very concisely, very quickly, being very appreciative of the person's time. And I got, I got shit on. Okay, that's all. All right. So he said to me in the video comment, says, "Thanks for the video." And that's completely insincere, apparently. Further, I'm a professor still working. So I did point out that he was a professor. I did point out that he's a teacher, that he's an authority. And I said, I don't know whether it's in physics or mathematics. The fact is he's a mathematician. Okay, a highly degreed mathematician, presumably a doctor. And that's fine. I didn't insult him in any way. I didn't pretend he was just Joe Smo, and apparently that's how he read the video, which I don't know how he did that. I mean, I could play the quotes from the video where I attempted to paraphrase his qualifications accurately without getting stuck in a bunch of pompous, arrogant, let's look at your degree or something. What university you got your graduate degree from. I mean, come on. Anyway. So I said, thanks for the acknowledgement. Hope you have time to watch the video and hopefully respond to some of the points made. Thanks again and such. So I didn't do anything to deserve what he posted on his channel. Okay, so this is what he wrote on his channel. He didn't do his snarkiness on my channel. No, he saved it for over here. And so I had posted the video response. Let's see if you can read all this crap. Move it over a little. All right. So there's my response video. Okay, and so his first statement is, I'm not someone who just reads books and says something on YouTube. I didn't say you were, okay? The fact is you're reading from a book and you're reviewing a book, and that's what I said. You're reviewing a book. You review books. That's what you do. I mean, it's frankly the substance of your videos are talking about a book. How have I in some way insulted you? I'm a working professor. That's fine. Whether you're working or retired, do you think that's that important? I don't think it's that important, but whatever. Okay, sorry to offend. I didn't mean to offend by implying that you might be retired. And a mathematician, so fine. I'm talking about physics, so you think physics and math are the same thing. I really don't think they're the same thing, but fine, whatever. So please be sure you have understood me before having a response video. So what do you mean? I don't even know what you're talking about. Before I have to understand you? I'm listening to what you're saying about Isaac Newton. I'm responding. It's in the title of the video. I'm responding to your description of Newton's mechanics. What do I have to know about anything else? I'm responding to your direct assertions and making arguments that I think add insight into the actual truth, okay, that I think some that you've slighted, that you've kind of slid over and just pretended aren't real. And I've just tried to highlight the point that I think there is more light to shed on this subject. I didn't do anything obnoxious. I mean, the video stands on its own. There's nothing in the video obnoxious. I would also like to know your background in science. Well, what does that have to do with it, okay? I mean, you can like to know it, but I don't think it should be relevant to somebody interested in arguments. So, for me personally, okay, I don't get that. I mean, I seldom wonder how qualified the person is who asks a question or makes a statement. I just basically judge the statement and say I either agree or I disagree, and these are my reasons. I really don't waste a whole bunch of time saying, how did you acquire this understanding? I just wish to understand what you're saying and what you're arguing and why you're arguing it. All right, so, whatever. And then he piles on some more crap. Dear viewers, please be careful of this channel. So now somehow I'm some sort of person that you have to be careful around. I'm not the one attacking anybody. I don't sit there and post people's houses and their family members and, basically incite people to go burn a cross in their yard. I'm not doing any of that crap. Okay, what the hell? What's the danger of my channel? Oh, I have a different opinion than you have, and therefore I'm dangerous. And you're the open-minded scientist. Ooh. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little hostile because, frankly, this is just so rude. What did I do to offend you so dearly and deeply? What? All right. Does not appear to be a proper scientist. And what's a proper scientist? So, as I point out in my comments, Michael Faraday wasn't a proper scientist. Lots of scientists weren't proper. Joule, okay, the Joule's named after Joule. He wasn't a proper scientist. It's just a fact. Okay, he is proving everyone wrong. I'm arguing that there's evidence and that they have misstated facts. That's what I'm arguing. And I'm defying you to point out where I mischaracterized the truth somewhere, where I said something that is actually wrong, where I did something wrong. I'm pointing out that plus and minus is wrong, okay? Frankly, it's just wrong, all right? Electrons are doing the plussing, okay, not the minusing. Okay, from Leibniz, yes, of course. So nobody can argue that Leibniz wasn't wrong. You can't argue that 4 pounds dropped 1 foot does not equal 1 pound dropped 4 feet. You're not allowed to say it without being discredited. That somehow it's a Sasquatch theory to even suggest that that might not be right. Amazing. To Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's frankly a clown, okay, doing clown physics. Okay, it's really nothing else. It's show physics. It's the Broadway show. Physics, the Broadway show. I mean, it's not physics. It's not science. This is where my doubt starts. Well, frankly, it makes you a little bit incredible. Now, as for my background, I mean, frankly, I could argue that, this guy's really interested in Indian history in the sense that he's Indian and he wishes to highlight some of the accomplishments of people of Indian descent, and that's all fair, okay. I'm not terribly interested in any of that cultural crap, my personal self. But regardless, that's fine. But I have watched all the lectures on 101 physics by Shakar at Yale. He actually looks a little like you, frankly. Um, you could be brothers. So yeah, I've watched hundreds of professional doctors presenting physics lectures to their students. All right, so I'm not unqualified to have an opinion or to provide some sort of argument because I can provide references because I have absorbed the content. All right, I mean, it's really obnoxious. Anyway. So we're not going to read a Garvey comment because that's obviously nonsense. Don't be careful, challenge your doubts. So I don't even know what, I'm not saying the guy has to have doubts. I'm just saying the fact is I'm making arguments and I'm going to point out my arguments. I'm going to list the arguments I made in that video that he don't think deserve any kind of attention at all. Physics doesn't have to account for any of it. It doesn't have to respond to any of it. None of it is relevant to science. And it's just going to show that these people really are just religious fanatics. They really aren't. They aren't interested in science. All right, so I responded to him. It's unfortunate and disappointing that you won't deal with the arguments presented in the video as what they are, just pure scientific arguments. So the whole video is me drawing and illustrating what I consider to be paradoxical and just stating some facts about what Newton actually said and how it's inconsistent with what you claim he believed. That those two things can't be reconciled. His overt words can't be reconciled with what you claim his theory provides as a mechanism. He didn't believe in mv squared, and he didn't believe in 9.8 meters per second squared. Like Michael Faraday, I have no professional qualifications, but I did spend years as a mechanic and as a machinist designing industrial control devices. And, the important feature there is, I had to do some circuitry, I had to do this, I had to do that, these basic mechanical parts, but I was also involved in imagining new ways of doing something. And I actually did do something quite innovative in terms of, applying a solar panel to a use that nobody else had ever applied it to, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, I have spent the last 10 years devoted to researching the subjects, and I will pay you a bounty if you can find any quotes of mine that can be fairly described as misinformation. So again, he's implied that I'm a dangerous channel, that somehow you're not going to get the truth, you're going to get lies or distortions or perversions. He's implied that I'm a bad source, and I will pay people to find the bad source in my content, okay? Frankly, it's just an absolutely obscene and irrational accusation to make, because I don't lie in my videos and I don't distort in my videos. I don't do any of that, and it's just completely unfair characterization. I don't think you would appreciate me calling you a liar, and I don't like it. Seems to me you're the one showing some duplicity. Okay, so I am sort of calling you a liar now. You claim science is open to new ideas, yet you demonstrate exactly the opposite. And that's all he demonstrated here, is he's closed door. Okay, he has absolutely no interest in examining any dissident information. Anybody who's going to argue that anything science has done is incorrect or stupid or even ignorant, he doesn't want to hear it. And especially if you're going to argue, well, some of it's just made up. I mean, frankly, if you can't repeat the 1919 Eddington experiment in better conditions, again, are you going to lie and say that Eddington didn't say in his journal, I wouldn't stake my life on these results? That he didn't state in his journal that his results are only 10% of the data quality he was hoping for? He was hoping for 10,000 stars per slide. He got 1,000. Are you going to say that's not a fact? All right, we don't do glowing Liar, pathetic arguments, nothing about physics, just too silly. All right, so then he says, yes, I'm open to ideas, and those ideas must be backed by solid evidence. Well, I'm arguing the same thing to you. So you're saying I have to be open to ideas that aren't backed by solid evidence. Where's your solid evidence that it takes 100 times the fuel to go 10 times faster? Where's your solid evidence of any of the crap, okay, you're telling me is an absolute fact? Where is it? So you don't have to have evidence. I do. Oh, okay. Duplicity, frankly. And in physics, an unambiguous mathematical framework must be provided. So where did this come from? Again, what is this accusation? So again, I'll bring up Faraday. Faraday had pretty much absolutely no use for mathematics, frankly. He loved drawing pictures. He loved the idea of, a mechanical diagram. Show him a schematic. That's what Faraday wanted to see. Show me your schematic. Okay? Don't show me math. All right? Draw me a picture. And so you're basically saying that Faraday was obnoxious. He was a terrible scientist. When, he's one of the greatest scientists in the history of science. But whatever. The mathematicians are going to try to say physics is their property. And, that the universe is somehow a mathematical diagram when... No, you can, parts of it behave in very structured and formal ways, okay, very reliable and dependable ways. Photons travel billions of light years at very reliable rules, and so it's very mathematically consistent. That doesn't mean the universe is math. Okay, I am sorry, it must be my shortcomings. Well, apparently you have some. But I couldn't understand your explanations of Newton's laws. So... what couldn't you understand? It just doesn't make any sense. They're direct accusations. I want to re-ask the questions in this video, and I challenge any one of these dissidents, these people who say I'm wrong or a liar, answer my questions. All right, just be an honest person, answer the questions. They're not that difficult. They're pretty simple. Just honestly answer the questions. Okay, for this moment, let me stay with my understanding, which may be wrong. So, I mean, this is just mush, right? It's just, you're being patronizing now. You're just insulting my intelligence with this pretending to care, but, I'm just going to, brush you off. I don't have to pay any attention to your arguments. You're not one of us. You're not from the ivory tower. You don't live in my neighborhood. You're the wrong side of the tracks. You're doing exactly what Faraday barely overcome, which is just being a bigot. All right. But as I have tried to learn them from indeed very good books, so again, that's just a claim, right? People will claim the only good book is the Bible. Should I pay attention to that opinion because they like the Bible, therefore the Bible's a great book? I don't think so. And physicist friends. So at least that he's conceding it's all about a network and it's all about our elitist little club. We're Club Med, your club, forget about it. We don't give a shit, dirty slob or something. You don't count. We're the only people that count. We'll decide what the truth is. You don't get to have any say in it. You're real democratic. Yeah, real fair cop there. However, it appears to me, as of now, the current understanding of Newton's laws works pretty well. I'm not talking about how well it works. It doesn't work, frankly, okay? 4 pounds dropped 1 foot. Well, Newton's law says it's, it is, the 1 pound dropped 4 feet is only half the energy. So Newton's laws are fine. Your interpretation of them isn't fine. Okay, so that's just a joke. So it works pretty well, and you believe it takes 100 times the fuel to spin a motor 10 times faster. You believe that's true. 100 times the fuel, not 10 times, 100 times the fuel. You believe that's a fact. All right, and that's pretty well working. Obviously, I'd say you've got the weight of the electron and proton way off because you can't even make the electrons and protons that make up my body weigh my weight. You can't even make my mass. All right. Anyway, it's just disgusting. The whole argument is that you're not paraphrasing Newton correctly. You're lying, frankly, about what he said and what he believed. And it's a significant accusation, and you're just saying, I'm not going to pay any attention. All right. I, of course, wish you all the success in your endeavor. So, again, more patronizing mush. I'm not going to pretend to wish you anything but getting what you deserve, okay, which is to be ignored, all right, and treated like a piece of shit. So I hope you get what you deserve. And maybe in the future your ideas in physics will be the center stage. Well, I'm contending that that's going to be the truth, and guess what you're going to look like in hindsight? You're going to look like exactly what I described as being the problem in the video. I pointed out how your science is closed-minded, that your science doesn't want to hear it, that your science will aggressively attack anyone who dares to suggest you might have made some mistakes. You can't suggest you made any mistakes. You can't suggest that you've been ignorant or lazy or sloppy. No one's allowed to say it, okay? Your paintings, your royal suit has to be seen by everyone. If everybody doesn't see it, they're in big trouble. Okay. And I will be open to that. Well, you're going to be, okay, frankly. I'm just saying, you've already, shown your true colors here, all right? And that's on you, buddy. I mean, that's all I can say. It's on you. Meanwhile, I'm very uncomfortable in interacting with someone who comes under a pseudonym. Everybody on the almost, 80% of the people on the internet have a pseudonym. I mean, screen names are around. They've been around for a long time for a lot of good reasons. Now, there's the trolls who use them for bad reasons, but there's people who just have to use them for good reasons, okay? And I never had a pseudonym on purpose, frankly. I just thought it sounded better to have a channel name that was about the subject, not a channel name that was about me, okay? It's not about me. It's about physics. So I have a channel name related to the subject of my videos because I don't think I am really important. I'm not, some pretentious person that needs people to write my name in the clouds or something. Okay, I'm not really looking for that. I'm looking to make an argument. Okay, I'm looking for the interaction, and I really don't really care about this personality crap. And is not open about his identity. Well, again, the identity thing is very dangerous, okay? I've had cops at my house based on the false accusations people make. All right, now maybe you wouldn't mind if I send the cops to your house, okay, based on some false accusations I make. All right, and you don't mind. I mind, frankly. I find it disturbing, okay? And the truth is it's less disturbing when I lived alone, but I don't live alone anymore. And so other people are going to be affected by this outrageous behavior of people. And the fact that you are totally ignorant of what doxing is on the internet and how dangerous it is when people can know your address and they can fuck with your life. And the fact that you have no idea that exists makes you pretty goddamn stupid. All right. Frankly, I mean, you're way out of touch. Okay, maybe you've lived in your little special isolated world a little bit too long and you have no idea what reality's like. Okay, especially when you say something controversial. You haven't even said anything controversial, and you had two people that gave you a little bit of trouble, a little bit of trolling, and you got so butthurt you almost closed your channel. And they didn't come to your house. Yeah. You see how silly you're being? All right. As a practicing mathematician, my request would be to publish your research findings. So you think that actually works? You think there's some place you can get published without a title and without somebody's okay? So let's go back to the fact that Einstein got pretty butthurt because they wouldn't publish Einstein. I mean, it seems almost impossible when you think about it that even if they thought Einstein was wrong, that they wouldn't publish Einstein? I mean, that's how out of control the publishing the throat they're controlling. It's like saying I should go to the Catholic Church and ask them to publish my book on evolution. Not going to happen. And you know it, frankly. So again, such nonsense. You can't publish dissonant material. It's not possible. In the top journals of physics, like Physical Review. Unfortunately, I believe my own capability in science is much poorer than you. Okay, so more patronizing crap. So that's just a backward insult. Okay, just again, what kind of lowbrow has to resort to that, okay, as a counter argument? So I make arguments about physics, and you make slights about somehow, this is an intelligence test. It's not an intelligence test. It's an argument about the physical reality. And I made specific arguments, and you ignored every single one of them. You didn't counter any of them, and all you did was insult me personally. So it will be futile on your part to interact with a nobody like me. So yes, we're asking for a qualified physicist to provide insight on the subjects, and you're just running away. And that's the fact. You're invited to show how some theory is wrong, and you're basically saying, I really am not interested. Now, if you say something absolutely ridiculous, you'll be interested because you know you have an argument. And the simple truth is, you don't have a counter argument to my assertions. You're not going to be able to say that Newton believed in 1/2 mv squared, that he believed in kinetic energy theory, because he clearly didn't. He opposed it with his own words and with his surrogates. And those are the facts. It's not his physics. Okay. Per second and seconds squared is not Newton's physics. All right, so thanking you for your kindness would be like to, but thanking you for your kindness, I would like to close my interactions with you. So he's conceding I was nothing but kind, and he's just saying, but fuck you. Yeah, okay. Amazing, just amazing, frankly. But perfectly consistent with every other professional scientist has done. So I have contacted more than 40 of these people and offered anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 for them to just pay attention to a 5-minute argument and debunk it. And they won't do it. They won't do it out of passion for science. They won't do it as a courtesy. They won't do it in friendship. They won't do it as a nice little chat. And they won't do it for money. All they'll do is spew rude shit. Okay, so I said, I have attempted communication with you in a fair and considerate way. Just as you slandered Newton, you now slander me with claims that I have not done diligent research and detail the facts accurately. Yet you provide no quotes, you provide no evidence that that I have done any disservice to science or any scientist. As stated, you are again proof that science is cement-headed and pig-headed, that they will have to be dragged to the truth like the ignorant masses they deceive and mislead. You're no better than the religious kooks. You're worse than the hierarchy of a religion. Because the frank truth is most of the Ayatollahs don't believe in God. The Pope doesn't believe in God. He just believes that this fable will do human beings some good. The bishops and all these people, they're cynical as hell. They don't believe any of this horse shit. All right? And they just believe it's good for people. And they also want to molest children. But, kind of obvious. Come on, it's obvious. You whine about a couple of trolls in one of your videos, yet you don't understand why somebody might wish to keep their personal information off the internet. In America, crazy science defenders will in fact harass the sanctity of your home and your family to attempt to extort you off the internet. You really are profoundly ignorant. Maybe you should just safely twiddle your thumb somewhere and quit pretending you can have an intelligent conversation. May you get what you have earned. I love saying that to somebody from India. Yeah. Because, yeah, your karma sucks. Okay? You're not coming back as a cow. That's my theory. Okay? I mean, if I put the facts together, yeah, you're not doing yourself any good here. Okay? What you did in this comment section didn't do your karma any fucking goddamn good. Because you behaved like a little fucking twitty jerk. Alright, so we'll forget about glowing again. Let's just read marbles for the hell of it. It ought to be funny. Alright, he literally thinks F equals ma is a false equation. That's not what I say. I say Newton didn't say that. Okay, and he certainly didn't say what you turned it into, which is somehow acceleration is a squared function. Newton didn't think acceleration is a squared function. He knew it happens and then it's over. Okay, or if it's a constant force like gravity, it happens, but it dramatically changes your velocity. Okay, and that anytime NASA scientists are talking about Newtonian mechanics, they really mean F equals mv. I'm not kidding. So show me any NASA scientist, okay, like in the space station, where they're doing a demonstration, where they do a demonstration of kinetic energy. Now, I've seen them do demonstrations of conservation of momentum, but I've never seen that. I don't think I've ever seen them do a kinetic energy, you know, a 5-ton train, 10-ton train experiment. I don't think I've ever seen them do a demonstration of kinetic energy or even talk about kinetic energy. So why don't you just post me a link to where they talk about navigational thrust, like let's just say the example from the movie Gravity, right, where she's using the fire extinguisher to navigate. Do you really believe, mindless marbles, that the NASA scientist will tell you you have to calculate the kinetic energy of the particles leaving the fire extinguisher? That the kinetic energy will tell you how much momentum she will get, how much motion she will get? Or do you think a NASA scientist is going to tell you, no, it's about the MV of the exhaust? Which one? I mean, how could he be such a liar? I mean, he really does. He does know this is a truth, okay? That NASA really is very interested in momentum and very uninterested in kinetic energy. Let's see, he pretends to care about evidence, yet people have presented him with well-reasoned arguments. So where was that? Where's there a well-reasoned argument anywhere? Where? Show me that. Show me the well-reasoned counter-argument to anything I've said. Show me, where is that? All right, real evidence, and he has completely denied anything contradicting him. So, again, we already have gone through all of these stupid termite wood experiments and matchbox car experiments, all these little rickety, shitty experiments. So it's not a matter that anyone doesn't engage with him. He is a troll that needs to be given less attention. So again, they don't want the conversation to take place. This is what their agenda is. More talk is bad, okay? There shouldn't be argument, discussion. That is a negative. You never want to have any of that, okay, about any subject. You want to shut it all down. No debates, no counter arguments, no nothing. Just let us preach our shit and everybody believe it. Oh, it's just disgusting. He will now likely make hundreds of videos with your name. I might make some, but I don't think it's going to be hundreds. But yeah, clearly this guy has once again proven the point. He's proven physics is a coward. A shameful, rude, obnoxious, cowardly, despicable, shitty, no character pile of shit. Okay, they're a bunch of pretentious jackasses talking absolute nonsense, and they will not allow anyone to counter their bullshit. They'll shut them all down. Abusing you with insults and insane nonsense. Inane nonsense. So we're not going to know what those are. So I'm going to point out the simple questions I asked in my video that these people won't answer, okay, and they certainly won't counter any of the facts stated in an attempt to provoke you. He is a narcissist, again, totally irrelevant, and coming from some guy who has to keep telling us that he's a doctorate in mathematics, right? Somebody who has to keep saying it, you know. In a league of Gene Ray, whatever this is, right? Weinstein, Chris Logan, with as much or less self-awareness as them. So it's kind of funny that he has all this negative opinion of these other people who are talkers on the internet that, frankly, I think could bury mindless marbles in an argument. Eric Weinstein might be a bit of a jackass, but frankly, he's going to destroy you in a debate. Chris Logan is, he's all hype. He's barely articulate. I don't even know who Gene Ray is, so thankfully I have been spared that interaction. All right, so yeah, just really disappointing. I mean, he could have shown up and answered the damn questions. You know, he could have taken on just one of them, said, look, I'm a busy man, but I'll take on one of your points and I'll point out to you that Newton did in fact say, I love mv squared. I think it's the coolest thing that ever came around. Leibniz was brilliant. Newton didn't say that, okay? You could have said that's what Newton said, but no, he didn't say that. All right. So this is what I'll be placing on the website. So this is on the shame page, you know, and I'll place my videos in order. I'll place the comments in order that he provided, and that's the way it'll stand unless he wants to clean this up by treating me like a human being, treating me with some sort of respect. I've spent 10 years researching this. And my whole life, I've been involved in thinking about these questions. I've been thinking about fucking what a photon is since I was, 10 years old. And I first heard the stories, about this, waving magnetic field bullshit. I've always found it obnoxious and silly. And I've always been seeking better answers. And the fact is, the more research I did, the more I found that they never proved any of this crap, and they just stated as a fact like a dogmatic religion. All right, so here's the questions I like. All the dissidents, all these little assholes who keep, spewing all this shit. Let's figure out exactly what you think, okay? What you actually believe. All right, is there any good reason they haven't done the Eddington experiment from space? I mean, it's a simple enough question, right? Is there really a good reason somewhere? Can somebody write a couple of sentences explaining why they wouldn't do a 5-minute experiment? Okay, it would be like the cheapest NASA experiment ever done. I mean, domestic cost a couple of $100. I mean, you'd have a little setup. Let's just figure an astronaut has to be, he has to be getting paid at least $500 an hour, right? You have to get paid a lot of money to do that shit. So let's just say it's a $1,000 experiment, a $10,000 experiment. I mean, it could be done with a reasonable camera, okay? It doesn't even have to have you don't even need a telescope. You just need a good lens. You don't need an eclipse. You just point the camera, take a little time-lapse photo for 5 minutes. That's it. You're done. Not very much to it, right? Okay, so why hasn't it been done from space? 400 times better resolution, never even attempted from space. Is there a good reason? There just really can't be a good reason. All right. Do you really think it requires 100 times the energy to spin a motor 10 times as fast? Simple enough question. Just answer it. Yes, mindless. Do you actually believe that's true? Yes or no? These are all like yes or no questions. You could say, well, conditionally. I mean, if you want to add some bullshit. But, we're talking about spinning a motor, so that you can't use a relativity argument, okay? Spinning a motor. It really doesn't have, relativity ain't going to have shit to do with it. You have to explain why it takes 100 times the fuel. So go ahead and explain. Is the physics, I mean, if I had a water wheel, do I need 100 times the amount of water to go underneath my wheel to spin the wheel 10 times faster? I need 100 times the volume of water? Is the physics of Leibniz the same physics as Newton's? Simple enough question. How substantial are the differences? I mean, do you think it's a profound difference? I mean, squaring a velocity, do you think that's like a profound difference, or do you think that's it doesn't matter. Squaring the velocity, what could that lead to? How could that be a big deal? Yeah. What is conserved in the universe, mv or mv squared? Simple enough question. Do you really think one of them has to be conserved, frankly, and one of them doesn't? I mean, one of them has to be the truth, one of them doesn't. So are you really gonna stick with this idea that mv squared has to be conserved when you know if I do that 5-ton, 10-ton train thing, it ain't gonna work, because you're not gonna be able to explain where the energy disappeared to. All right. Is it true that anytime you convert energy from a light object to a heavier object, you will destroy kinetic energy? And you really do destroy it, right? Because you're conserving the momentum, so you really have to be destroying it, because you can't really make heat if you don't use up something's momentum. All right. It will not be conserved. All right. Is it fair to Newton to describe his physics as saying twice the velocity, 4 times the force, when he directly stated twice the force, twice the velocity? So do you think it's fair? That's all. I mean, did Newton earn being correctly paraphrased, or did Newton earn getting lied about? I mean, it's a simple enough question. Do you think we should lie about what Newton said? Do you think the second law should be what Newton said or what Leibniz said it is? All right. Did Newton say 9.8 for 1 second or 9.8 seconds squared per second squared? So it's a simple enough question. Are you willing to admit that no, Newton didn't say per second squared. He said 9.8 meters per 1 second. All right. Is it fair to say Newton believed gravity was a time-dependent force, that in free fall, how long you are falling will decide how much energy you have collected? So what do you think? Is there any example where Newton demonstrated any willingness to believe that distance is controlling how much you get out of gravity? How far you fall is what matters, not how much time you are falling. All right. Do you believe 4 pounds dropped 1 foot collects the same gravitational energy as 1 pound dropped 4 feet? Simple enough. Do you really think so? All right. Is adding and subtracting velocity the same kind of special event that requires squared notation? So that's just basically, it's stating what it's stating. I mean, do you think just because I added some velocity or subtracted some velocity that I did something incredibly special? That I didn't do exactly that. I just gave it more velocity, or I took velocity away. I didn't do anything special. Something that deserves squaring. Is denting clay with a round surface and measuring the displacement a scientifically reasonable way to measure energy? So is that how we should do it? In all cases, and if that gives us the truth, there's no reason to doubt that maybe a round surface isn't going to be a fair and linear way to measure energy. Okay. Is rolling an object across a surface and just measuring the distance traveled a scientifically reasonable way to measure energy? So again, in spite of what Galileo proved 500 years ago about ramps, and he basically said you can have a ramp with a 0 slope, or you can have a ramp with all kinds of slopes. And the fact is every case, it's 1, 3, 5, 7. Every single case. That when something's rolling, it goes half its velocity after it has traveled 3/4 of its total distance it will travel. 3/4 of the distance, it's going half the velocity, not half the distance. So you don't think that's true. All right. Is it true that something lifted 4 times the height falls in only twice the time? So that one's pretty simple. I mean, you should be able to say yes to that one. And I'm just going to mock you for thinking that somehow twice the time can possibly create 4 times the energy. All right. Do you concede that Newton directly opposed Leibniz's theory regarding the existence of a living force? So, do you concede that Newton opposed Leibniz's theory? That that's a fact of history? He didn't agree with it, thought it was junk, thought it was a nonsense, thought it was superfluous crud, didn't have any use for it at all. if I push an elephant into a horizontal scale, okay, simple enough argument, right? Did you ever think about it, you science lovers? Do you ever even give it any thought? So I push something into a scale placed horizontally. That means I give it a velocity and I let it hit the scale. What velocity would you have to give this it for the scale to read its weight? So we want to sit there and read its mass, okay? What it weighs this way, we want to create the same deflection in the scale by giving it a velocity this way. And do you understand that, guess what? It's going to be the same velocity for every single thing I throw. That I throw a mouse, it'll be the same velocity to make a mouse's weight. Doesn't matter. Elephant, then I same velocity, 1 mile an hour. Have you ever thought about it? Think about it? Do you give it any consideration at all? No. Is it really important physics? Yeah. Okay. For the scale to read its weight, is that velocity the same for all objects? And that's basically the velocity that gravity's pushing you into the scale. It's a simple argument. It's your momentum. Momentum moves scales. Do you believe it makes sense that a bullet with 2,000 joules of kinetic energy can hit a ballistic pendulum and lose 1,999 joules of kinetic energy, yet conserve 99% of the momentum as linear motion? So the ballistic pendulum linearly moves. It has a velocity, and the velocity contains 99% of the momentum. So you haven't wasted any momentum, not a substantial amount of it. And yet you've lost 99% of the kinetic energy. So you can't really claim that kinetic energy was lost to heat or vibrations, or you shot little pieces into space, because you'd have to lose momentum to do that. You'd have to use momentum to shoot something into space or to make a bunch of heat. I can't heat the ground without losing velocity. I can't do it. It's impossible to roll something on a surface where it bounces and vibrates the ground, and for it to keep its velocity. It has to lose its velocity. It has to lose its momentum. So there's just no way to fix that paradox. You have to believe that energy can be created and destroyed. That's what you have to believe. That's what Leibniz's theory requires. You have to believe that you can create and destroy energy in this universe. All right, do you really believe a 5-ton train going 10 miles an hour will decisively beat a 10-ton train going 5 miles an hour in a tug of war? Simple enough. The two trains head off, and you got a rope, and the rope's going to run out. Does the 5-ton train decisively win? Because it has twice as much kinetic energy. Do you really believe that will happen? Now, they've never done the test, so that's the fucking irony, right? We're sitting here in 2024 now, and they've never bothered to even check. Couldn't be interested at all. They're too busy doing math. Why would they bother doing an experiment that's simple? No, hell with it. We don't need the answer. We know the answer already. Of course, the 5-ton train wins because math wins. Silly living force math wins. All right. So, enough of a video. But I've got to say, it's just so, these people are so disappointing. This giant douche, Simon Dan, I repeatedly tried to get to him, engage in one single argument. Can you make a counter argument to anything I have stated? Will you give me the same energy you devote to flat earthers? Can you give me one tiny percentage of that energy to argue my actual arguments against your science? No. Douchebag. This piece of crap. Okay, again, wouldn't engage, wouldn't sit there and allow the argument to be answered. He basically said, what's thrust? I don't know what thrust is. Yeah, just ran away from the argument. Okay, this douchebag. You try to interact, get a physicist interested in these fundamental arguments, And what does he do? He contrives a bunch of little narrowly focused experiments to try to distort the truth and pervert it. Okay, but does he do the real experiments? Does he prove it takes 4 times the energy to go twice as fast, or 9 times the energy to go 3 times as fast, or 16 times the energy to go 4 times as fast? No, 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 no. Does he prove that spaceships are navigate in space based on kinetic energy theory, that bullets flying out one side make ships turn a lot more than guns recoiling out the other side? No. He actually conceded that, yeah, that won't turn the ship. So he already conceded kinetic energy doesn't work in space, but mindless marbles won't pay any attention to that fact. Alright, so it's just... I really dislike being on this planet of fibbers and phonies and fakes, and it's really depressing that humans are such scum. But it is a fact. So I'll have to endeavor to persevere. That's all I can do. I'll do my part. I'll keep making fair, reasonable arguments, and people can just keep doing their mudslinging, I guess. And we'll see where it all ends up. Who's going to be on the ash heap of history and whatnot. But like I say, what's the point? What's the point of not being on the ash heap of history when they so rudely and crudely and overtly lie about Newton? Did the hero's job, did heroic scientific work. I mean, this Newton stuck a fucking stick in his eye and bent his eyeball for physics, for science. I mean, can you imagine doing that? Sticking something behind your eye and pushing on your eyeball to fuck up your retina so he could know how light, how eyesight works. And this is the guy they lie about. So, I mean, that's how pathetic it is. Even when you do the right thing, you do good science, these assholes will just lie. They'll put up a fake totem pole, with somebody else's face on your statue. Just sucks. God, people suck. Pathetically bad planet.